Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. If I can ask the speakers to join me on stage. I'm Devyani. I work with the Center for Responsible Business, and a big thanks to the organizers for, partnering with us for this session. And if I can invite the speakers to come and take their position as well. So we're going to talk about brands with purpose, and we've also been told that we have a limited time. We will try, but I can't promise that we will wrap it up in 35 minutes. Let's hear from our speakers. So when we talk about brands with a purpose, first of all, what is the purpose that we are talking about, right? We did want to set that context. When we're talking about purpose and what the panel will look into it is the business growing sustainably, but the planet is sustainable, and the people flourish. So it is people, planet, profits that we are looking at when we talk about purpose. Now, is purpose important? Absolutely. You can look at it from various perspectives. If you look at regulations, our own international ones, the fashion industry is beginning to get regulated. There is a lot of focus on sustainability. There is a lot of focus on how you use your resources. So it is definitely coming our way. It is coming in the way the consumer is making their choices. We heard in one of the sessions yesterday, it is coming in the way finance is being done for the sector. It is definitely coming in regulations. So I think we cannot decouple purpose from business anymore, right? Now, are we there as yet? Absolutely not. But is it completely a blank slate for us in India? Is it a concept that's coming to us from outside? Again, a big resounding no. There is a lot that is being done here, and it is being done at various levels. So the panel that I have with me today will delve into some of those models, will talk about how purpose is working for them, will look into that how are some of the challenges that they're looking at can be looked to resolve. So that's something that we will be looking at. We will readjust the panel a little bit, but before I get to our speakers, I did have one quick question for the audience. If I say brand with purpose, which brands come to your mind? Would you like to share some names? Anyone? Doodle Age. And why? Okay, so sorry, I'm going to keep it brief, but thank you. So Doodle Age, we heard about one. I mean, fashion is a big industry. We are talking about many brands. So if you're talking about brands with purpose, which brands? Okay. Great. Okay, thank you so much. So we are hearing that they're working with waste. We are hearing that they are better utilization of resources. And I'm happy to report at the end of the session, you will have a number of brands that you will add to your knowledge who are working with a purpose. Right? And this is something we also want. We want that purpose, sustainability becomes mainstream. Right? Can we make it a factor when we have our purchasing decisions? You as the customer, do you want to know about purpose? What do you want to know about purpose? And hopefully at the end of the session, we would have kindled a fire that how do we make purpose a very, very integral part of any business. So without further ado, I'm going to get into my speakers, and I'm going to request Dr. Tyagi, who has a couple of slides to share with us. And sir, if you can start with, sorry, sir, before I come to you, I did want to get Puneet in, and the reason is because we are hearing customer is price sensitive. Customer is not always looking for purpose. They are looking for the latest trends. But Puneet here is probably going to share with us, is that really true? You have a study on, you have an understanding of what the customer is looking for today. So Puneet, over to you. You have about 3 to 4 minutes. What do you think the customer is looking for, and what is it that brands need to listen to now? Thank you.
So I think, thank you so much for this. Important topic, important discussion, brands with purpose. Good terminology. Good to hear. We all feel good about this. And when you say walk the talk, now I represent WGSN. For those who are not aware, we forecast trends. So people perceive we only forecast product trends. But just to give an insight, we probably were the first ones, like a publication which went public with information, who had a section called sustainability on our website. So anybody who's a user, if you go, there's a separate tab which says sustainability. It's not a buzzword for us. We actually had good reports over there. We still have. And that's one of the sought-after segments we have when it comes to clicks on our website. Then it became a little more deeper. We started giving trends, and we had a small tab at the bottom of all our trend reports which said the sustainability action points for this. Now, why do we do this? It's because the consumer somehow does want this now. And to answer your question, yes, we are a price-sensitive market. We were talking while we were preparing for the panel. We were discussing that the consumers need things at a lower cost. So sustainability does have its own implications. We're going to deep dive a lot more on this. It is expensive to make sustainable as a very mainstream practice. But our point of view, and we are a forecasting company, so we don't look at just what's happening now. We try to look at what's going to happen in the future, is the change in the consumer generation. Now, yesterday there was somebody who was talking about how many are millennials, which ones are Gen Zs. Next 10 years, who are the driving forces when it comes to making a purchase decision? Just add 10 years to your ages. It's scary. I don't want to add. But add the 10 years, and then add the 10 years to people who are 10 years younger to you. They are the ones who are going to be the driving force. So right now, when we look at our studies and we start looking at consumer before we say any product forecast, we try to track sustainable angles over there. And what we realize is that it's the Gen Z and the generation afterwards, which is the one which has a voice. They are guilty as well, like we are, but they have a voice. They are ones who want transparency from brands. They are the ones who really want you to tell them the environmental cost of a manufacturing a particular garment has. Why do you think Bangladesh started the green revolution? Anybody familiar with Bangladesh? You have green factories concept there, and this was like 5 to 6 years back. Almost all the major factories in Bangladesh started talking green. It became a buzzword in the beginning, good because US and American, European buyers used to come to them, and they would prefer working with a green factory because it went with the brand ethics that yes. But at this stage, it is not only about ethics, it's not about just saying that we are sustainable. Now consumers are asking for it. You need transparency. Just to tell you, one of the forecasts right now is, in the next couple of years, is that there is a lot of anxiety amongst people. The consumer we are facing, and all of us there, the pandemic has accelerated it, but we are very anxious as consumer base. We are anxious about our well-being. So one of the bigger drivers for trends in the next couple of years for us is the care culture, which is a simple care for us, for my well-being. I'm being selfish, you should be selfish. If you're caring for your well-being, it is not your health. Your health gets determined by a lot of factors. I'm from Delhi. We keep talking about the pollution levels. We never used to speak about this a long time back. Then there was odd even, the cars started getting banned. I have a diesel car. I maintain it well, but I have to change it because the government keeps on banning this. I'm going to replace my car. But we are talking about this. The consumers are being educated somehow because they're being affected. Till the time, वो कहते हैं ना घर के अंदर, in Hindi we say, जब तक मुसीबत खुद पे नहीं आती है. So right now you can imagine the consumer is facing that challenge. They are facing it, and that's the reason they will ask questions. And that's the reason it is an responsibility for brands to walk the talk. So the consumers is well educated. And yes, one of the bigger trends just for brands out here is that what we anticipate is that consumers are willing to pay a little bit of an extra, a little bit, on all the cost part for something, and they'll buy less. They will not buy more. That's how they will balance their finances, but they're willing to pay a little extra if your product has quality. And the quality is not कि garment कितना लंबा चलेगा. The quality is how well the process, right from sourcing to designing to an actual inventory coming to the stores and the SKU being delivered, whether it's online, offline, to the consumer. That is an aspect they are looking at, and they're happy with you talking about this. So be transparent is a thing which consumers are seeking when it comes to sustainable.
Thank you, Puneet. I think a key takeaway that we have to look at the future, and it is definitely here. And I think with that, it gives me a good segue to invite Dr. Tyagi, because Aditya Birla as a brand is doing a lot on sustainability. right? And you're going to show your slides, you're going to discuss. But it'll also be interesting to know how you're engaging with the consumer, right? Or how the brand can engage with the consumer and drive this entire conversation on purpose. So if I can request Dr. Tyagi's slides to be please put up.
Thank you, Devyani. And I think, Puneet, you have set context right, why it is required. And there is no brain in that everyone is expecting that sustainability to happen. Many forum, many places I keep hearing, now in last couple of years, sustainability as a only talking point. But what is the first starting point? I think you will find that a lot of people want to do good, and small brand or mid-sized brand, which is primarily that entrepreneur and promoter driven, they try to make it happen. But big corporate, very few people who are driving it in genuine way. So what is the first starting point? I think it's purpose of the organization. How that organization want to be in sustainable operation, sustainable growth. I think that purpose come from that intent. What is the intent of the top man, our chairman, Mr. Kumar Mangal Birla? He has set his purpose, and you see that what he say, purpose of the organization, which is Aditya Birla Group. So it well articulated how it need to go beyond that to business economy, how it need to build that trust, how it need to enrich the life of many people, and it is so well ingrained in our all business philosophy. So that first point I would say that it's intent of the organization, what you want to do, not only economy, but economy with the society and the planet good, with the purpose. So this purpose is kind of not only guideline, but soundboard for all our group company across the globe, and which we take it as a pride. We are part of this group where chairman himself is involved, and he want to create that trust in that community and society what we operate. With that, purpose, we started our journey in 2013. I represent Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail. We have almost 28 brands now. I'm sure that you wear all our clothes. One thing which come in our brand is that as a responsible organization, how we embed sustainability into our business philosophy. And the second thing is that looking into all stakeholder, not only shareholder, but all that stakeholder, including customer, consumer, vendor, partner, society, NGO, how we create positive impact and co-create something which is good for society and environment. And third thing is that looking into that, how overall it create impact in that all stakeholder. So we take that approach that most of the time you find that people talk first as a marketing, we did this, but we do reverse. We start with intent, we go with that, what we need to co-create with our stakeholder, and then we talk about the result. So with that philosophy, we started in 2012, our program called Re-Earth. It has become synonym with that sustainability. And we say that we want to give back more what we take from our ecosystem. And it started with 10 missions across our operation from energy, carbon, water, waste, product, packaging, so and so. And with that 10 mission, we have very clear responsibility and accountability, who is going to drive it. All senior leadership was behind it. And we put that very clear KPIs and metrics, how we are going to see the progress from year one to year next and next. We were able to get all that what we call sustainability 1.0, which was target 2020. All that 10 mission, we were able to get that good progress. Seeing the success of that, we decided that we want to do something more, not within our operation for resource efficiency, but we want to go beyond. We want to engage customer, consumer, partner, supplier, vendor, everyone in that journey. And we created that 2.0, what we call 2025. You see that some of the target in this which we have taken are very ambitious and bold, but seeing the success of what we have been doing and how we are engaging all that stakeholder, we are sure that some of these target we will achieve. And I think that two part of how we are bringing that systematic change, one is that innovation. For any change, you need to have innovation. So how you bring different thinking, different innovation, and then other thing is that it cannot be done alone. It need to be done jointly, and hence collaboration become very, very important. So in 2.0, we have taken that collaborative approach. We are working with like-minded people, how to drive it within, not within the organization, but outside organization, in the country, in the industry. We are working with CRB, we are working with Circular Apparel Innovation Factory, we are working German government GIZ, we are working together with many other like-minded people, India Green Building Council, World Green Building Council. And I can tell you that people talk about today circularity and waste management. We are the first garment industrial manufacturing company to get LEED True Waste certificate for one of our factory. All our factory is green building certified by LEED, which is US or India Green Buildings certified. You talk about Bangladesh, but I will talk about that 6 of our factory is certified for green building, gold level or platinum level. Even our warehouse is perhaps only warehouse in India to have platinum standard. So that is that journey. Still, I think that much more need to be done, but with all that collaborative effort and stakeholder on board, I'm sure that we will try to make it much better, because previous master session was on that design. I see that hall was full, and suddenly we see that it's not full. So we need more and more people to come and drive this. That's why I would say that it's collaborative.
Thank you so much, sir. I think very comprehensively put. So I think I like that the purpose was very easily broken down and it was percolated across the organization. And I'm not going to reiterate the points which you very succinctly put, but I think important to note that we need to tell that story. I think we do good, but we also share that knowledge. We don't have to rest on our laurels. Like sir said, there's a lot more to
Just
do.
one thing I want to add here. Many times I see that, I don't know why I say that, people talk about a story, but they do very less on ground. And I think that we believe in that doing on ground and then talking is more authentic.
No, so sir, that is the point I was coming to, right? The story is about what is already being done. You know, it is astonishing how we hear in different forums, oh, we did not know this was happening in the country. And it is even with Ministry of Textiles, a similar situation. Secretary Ministry of Textiles was appreciating something in Bangladesh, and people sitting in the audience were like, but we can take you to a factory in the neighborhood which is following exactly the same. So the story is, you are right, we have to be careful with greenwashing, we have to be careful with what we say, but what the good is happening, we definitely need to say, because there is a story to tell, because there is an inspiration to be created. So thank you so much. Susan, I'm going to come to you next, right? Just explain a bit about industry, but you started with the impact that you wanted to have and the change you wanted to make and built it back towards a business model. So how has that worked? You know, I mean, do you see this business with a purpose, such a model can be mainstreamed? You know, and what leverage has it given you to work in that manner?
Okay. Is this on? Okay, thank you. Okay, hi. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Susan. Thanks, Devyani. This is a very passionate subject, very close to our hearts. I work with the rural women across India. So like Devyani said, we started with a purpose of impacting rural women. When we looked around and we saw that factories in and around cities are bringing people from villages, from rural India, from small towns into Bangalore or into the main cities, we were like, this is not the way to go. So we work very closely with rural women across India, And what we do is we try to bring work closer to their homes. We work on a model which has got 6 C's. I won't touch on all, but the first one is construct. What we look at is we go to a village, we aggregate the women there, and we see the potential of these women who have not moved out of their houses for societal reasons. So, and we try to give them work. The other C is capacity building. We build capacity. We make them, we train them on hard skills. We have got various value chains. We have apparel, we have textile, we have embroidery, we have banana and bamboo products. So what we do is we do hard skilling training with them. While we're doing the hard skill, we are also doing the soft skill, meaning we are teaching them on financial literacy. We're teaching them on self-building, giving them an identity of themselves, to go out there and earn. While we were doing these two, and we were quite successful, we have impacted about 500,000 women across. We realized that we are taking them out from whatever comfort zone they are living in. Maybe as a housewife, or maybe working on the farms, or maybe working in very risky conditions like in the beedi factories. We realized that we need to give them economical balances for the future. So that's the other C which comes in, where we do channel. We take them closer to a brand. We bring them work which is continuous from a brand. We bring them closer. And while we are working with channel, we are also looking at creating designs. We create our own products. We create our own designs. And these women are working very closely on the designs, on the channel, which we then take it closer to the international brands or the national brands. Now, the problem is that when we are going into the village, I have been asked by brands, you should be cheaper just because you're working from a village. That's not a fair thing to ask, because we are trying to see that they get a fair wage. So the first mind shift of brands has to be that if you are going to a village, if you're going to a town, the price is going to be lesser. And as Puneet said that, if a consumer, and right now, my kids, they are so conscious, they want to know who made this product. Was this woman paid correctly? Was this woman paid as much as, retail, and is she getting 1/80th the price which is on the retail tag? So they are very aware. They are very aware. Sometimes we think that people are not aware. So if we can take this forward to a consumer and put these products there, saying that these are all ethically made. We are also looking at a supply chain which is sustainable and transparent. When we started our banana products, we were first doing the product and then we went into plantations. But on the bamboo side, we're working with farmers, getting them to make and plant the bamboo. It will take 2-3 years for the bamboo to yield. But this is how we look at sustainability. And Industry Foundation, the core is the producer, the woman who is working on your product. So the purpose is very clear, and the brands that I have interacted in, they are also very, very concerned about purpose. It's not as if they are blind to it. It is a growing knowledge that, yes, and then when you hear about brands like, Dr. Tyagi said, we are so happy to hear that, even the big brands, even if it is a small part that they are starting and steadily going up, it helps everybody. So Industry Foundation has the purpose, and we are looking forward to taking this across to brands.
Thank you, Susan. I think a very important point, and this struck me yesterday as well. Now, we heard yesterday quite often that COVID opened a great opportunity. It opened e-commerce, it opened retail. Businesses grew actually at a rate which they did not expect. But I think it's also important to recognize that COVID also created a lot of disastrous impact for some parts of the value chain. And I think, Susan, you brought out that point that how do you distribute that value much better? How do you take it down to the last mile in the supply chain? And it will be the responsibility of every stakeholder in the value chain to do that, right? It is not just the customer's responsibility to pay more. It's not just the brand. It is when everyone will collaborate, when everyone is willing to share that value, that you will truly become sustainable in the value chain. So thank you so much for sharing that. Prashanta, if I can come to you now, right? Because you are looking at more a B2B model. How have you looked at the B2B model to drive something with purpose, right? And how can we leverage on such models?
Okay, hello everybody. So I am representing Resha Mandi here. I do not know how much of you understand what we do. So Resha Mandi, as we've already discussed, it wasn't started with a purpose. It's a startup, it's just a 2-year-old company. And as we started working, we realized that we were working towards a purpose. We started working with silk farmers. We figured what were the challenges, why were the crop failing, why were they having problems with inputs. And we installed small things like, if there's humidity extra in the silk and that is why it may fail. We gave them these small devices that you can install. You get to know that humidity is high, just open windows and humidity will decreased. So we started working with silk farmers. We then moved to silk readers. We then moved to silk weavers, and then finally retailers. Every stakeholders that we worked with, we figured out what were their challenges. I was telling Devyani that a raw mango sari being woven in a chanderi and a Banarsi woven in a Banaras often had yarns which were not from India. I come from a design background. We always thought that, oh, Banarsi is an Indian sari. But we never figured out that, that the yarns were Chinese. So slowly we have convinced the weavers to start using Indian yarns. We figured out what were the problems in the Indian yarns. We fixed those problems. It's a long process. It's not, it has considerably changed in the past 2 years. And we are still in the process to convert everything which is, made in India, things like that. Again, moving to the retailers, we figured out retailers had no inventory management. In a brand which is corporate, they still know that, okay, a yellow sari is moving in, say, Delhi and not moving in a south, so shift the inventory. But weavers, retailers, they had no intel what to make, what will sell. We started studying trends, we started studying seasons, we started studying market buying patterns, and we started giving insights to these weavers. We go and tell the weavers, make these colors, make these motifs. This is what the top brands are doing. You should change those motifs and make designs accordingly. Then we started working with retailers where we gave them insights that, okay, these are the colors predicted in Europe, so India will also follow these color patterns. So if you buy these colors, your salability with your consumers will increase. So very small and big changes we've done. We obviously work only with natural fibers. We have now started collaborating with a lot of corporates. A lot of international brands have started reaching out to us because we have a QR code which we give on every product that we buy, that anybody buys from us. You scan the QR code, we can give you the farm that it grew in, the place where the cocoons were reared in terms of silk, where was it made into a yarn, where did the weaving happen, where was it dyed. So people get complete transparency. A consumer, if they are made aware that why is a silk sari costing 7,000, whereas a non, like maybe a polyester sari, the consumer will know how many hands does a silk sari go through. For example, a Banarasi sari on an average goes through 27 hands to finally reach the consumer. So if somebody is paying a certain price, they are aware that they are profitable, they are helping 27 households, and the profit is divided amongst them. So similarly, we are now doing the same with cotton, with jute, with wool. So.
Thank you so much. So I think you brought out that point of transparency and traceability, which Puneet also touched upon, that the customer wants to know. And you also talked about capacity building, which is important, right? And that sustainability can be looked at in different scales also. It can be small changes, it can be big changes. You source locally, how do you source, how do you manufacture, how do you produce, so that you're able to sell and not really create waste, because that was also a challenge that's coming. So thank you for sharing that. And with that, I'm going to come to Bhavisha, and a slightly different segment, right? And you're looking at streetwear, and you talk about slow fashion. So, Bhavisha, we always hear that, can we really stop fast fashion? Is it profitable for businesses not to look at fast fashion? So what is the purpose that you are working with? And can you share your experiences on actually bringing purpose to something like a streetwear brand and slow fashion?
Yeah, thanks so much, Devyani. I'm obviously going to talk with a streetwear lens. And as India's first curator of international and also Indian streetwear brands, my co-founder and me sat down to think about what it is that we're going to be creating as a mission for Capsule in India. And the one thing that we realized for us was that it was very important for us it's very important that it's connections over collections. Now, I quite possibly fortunate that I cater to a very niche audience where price points is not such a decision-making factor, but we cater to Gen Z, for whom what the brand says, what the platform says is really important, and that is how they build brand love and shop with us, for example. So the message that the brand purpose that we at Capsule have is to drive the message of buying less, buying well. How can we help sustainability be sustainable from a consumer lens point of view? So the whole idea is that the kind of products we curate limited products, we curate brands that have a purpose, we curate brands that use better quality GOTS certified cotton. We curate brands that participate in causes. For example, a lot of streetwear brands are founder-led, who have their own purpose. A lot of streetwear brands are surfing, come from a surfing community. So the founders automatically care about the oceans. So proceeds from the brands will go towards saving the sharks, saving water conservation and things like that. And most importantly, streetwear, and this is something very close to my heart, streetwear is timeless, it's seasonless. We encourage people to buy a product that speaks to them. That product you will wear it well. You've obviously spent more money on it, so you'll take better care of it. You'll wear it well. It'll last in your wardrobe for like 5, 6, 7 years. Doesn't contribute to the landfills. You love the product so much because there's quite possibly a social message as well on it. And after the product sort of has done its time, you either resell it, because we all know thrifting is becoming big amongst Gen Z. You can thrift it, or if you've completely battered the product, we have something called the Capsule Atelier program, where we can help that garment sort of become maybe like a pillowcase and things like that. So essentially, that's how we have come to realize our purpose, and that's the message we're sort of sharing with our community. And the last bit that I feel is very important to us is the concept of community. And that community is helping us with commerce. So today it's not a question of how we can do it, but if we don't, we lose that consumer entirely.
Thank you so much. So I think we heard in other sessions also about building that connect, a meaningful connect with the customer, and you've touched on that very well. And the question to ourselves is, can we have purpose driving that connect, right? Can we build purpose into how we connect with our customers? It doesn't have to be just style, it doesn't have to be trends, it doesn't have to be price, but can we, and there's so much work happening. I think the consumer also wants to be connected to the social cause, and if we can communicate that better to them, if we can make them a part of this journey, would also perhaps help in building more conscious consumers. So coming to last but definitely not the least, right? So as somebody looking at Fiber, how are you integrating purpose? But you're also part of the industry for quite some time, and like I said, I don't think purpose is completely new to us. We've been doing good work, right? So what do you think we've been doing well, but where we still need to step up, if we really want to create brand India with purpose, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Hi, my name is Shyam. I'm from Grasim Industries. I would start with a small story on the purpose. The birth of Grasim started with a very big purpose. In 1947, when India was a new country, we lost 80% of our cotton production to our neighboring country. And in very short time, it was very difficult to give basic fabric to our people. And that's when our erstwhile chairman's grandfather started Grasim industry to make viscose fiber. It's a natural cellulosic fiber. And I think that's the purpose we start with, and I agree with, and I'm proud that Dr. Tyagi shared our chairman's vision that we create business not only for profitability, but also for societal upliftment and a business with a purpose. Where are we today? Every faction of the fashion industry is in a different state of mind. But I'll come to the basic thing. Whatever you are making, you are using, and you are fabricating comes from a basic single product, which is a fiber. And if you don't know where that fiber is coming from, how it is made, and how it is resulting in impacting the environment, that's a big unawareness that you all have, and including most of our consumers. Because end of the day, you just evaluate a garment, or you just reposition a garment thinking that it is really benefiting sustainability. Yes, it might be. But at the same time, we all should understand that in today's world, all the fibers are contributing to your fabric. Somewhere they are better, in some places they are not better. My perception is that today there is extraordinarily impressions on that polyester is not good, synthetic is bad, it cannot be recycled, and there is extra pressure on cotton. But I'll tell you one thing, that cotton for last 40 years has been the same production, and the next 40 years also going to be same production, and it is going to kill the soil. Because it is going to use more water, it is going to use more urea to produce a cotton. Similarly, viscose, we make it from trees, pulp. Excess cutting of trees might impact earth, in terms of greenhouse and getting the products. So excess of using everything has been a challenge in fashion industry. I will rather say that in Grasim, we have been very conscious. I believe purpose is a, product gives the functional and fundamental purpose to buy a apparel, but purpose gives an emotional factor to anyone in the value chain system, including a user. And that's where we keep a balance. We make fiber which can go and give a purposeful and quality fabric that you all use, but at the same time, we keep a purpose that it is eco-friendly, it is sustainable, and it is natural, doesn't impact the environment. Today, 95% of the fiber that is made in the world goes into textile waste. And textile and apparel consumes industry's second biggest pollution in the global industry. So that's 2 point to think. And in that case, what we have done consciously over the time, that how can we make products which can use the textile waste? How can we make textile waste part of the value chain system from the fiber onwards? Because I can see a lot of work is being done in the value chain till the time it reaches consumer, but what are you doing in the basic material, which is fiber? We have introduced 2 products which uses 30% of cotton, recycled back into a pulp, and then it is made into viscose. And I think that's a great story which you'll be seeing more and more coming from our side and even from global side, that textile waste recycling is going to be a big impact. And if you can make that recycling from the fiber purpose, it's going to reposition the whole fashion in a very different way. And then that's where we also have a tracking system, that these all sustainable fibers, they have an inherent DNA tracker, that if a consumer buys our Liva brand fabric, you can track down which forestry, how much of cotton waste, how much of forest is used, who is making this fiber spinning, who is making the garment, is he using child labor, who is making the processing. I think these are small good things that the industry have started doing, and we are part of it, but we have a long way to go. The only thing that I can tell is that Gen Z, when they buy things, they're only not going to look at sustainability, but also they need to look at where the basic product comes from. And I think that's where the change has to come from.
Thank you so much. I think you talked about the emotional connect, which is very important. And I think the message we want to give also is that it's not just the emotional connect. I think with a business, the conversation comes that is it viable? Yes, it is. We have businesses sitting here who are doing it, who have made it viable. The message is there is an emotional connect. It is viable. Just to share, because we also work with the Ministry of Textiles, like you rightly said, there's a lot of focus now on recycling. There are businesses which are looking at repurposing. In fact, Doodle Age came up, somebody said that they work with scraps. There are a lot of other, but that connect across the value chain perhaps is not happening as strongly as it should if we want to move at the pace. So I think this has been very, very encouraging, very, very motivating. I had other questions, but unfortunately we've been asked. We have 5 minutes. No, but I am going to come back to all our panelists, because I think Dr. Tyagi pointed something out, and I have that dilemma as well, that when it comes to talking about sustainability, suddenly the numbers dwindle, right? Suddenly the numbers dwindle. That, you have a question?
No, give your 5 minutes.
Oh, you're giving us 5 minutes. Okay, thank you so much. So if the audience has questions, please do interact with them. I think I'll reserve my comments, but I would like to ask the panelists if you would like to leave some parting thoughts with the audience, right? You can look at it from various examples. Various lenses, sorry. One, no journey is without risks or challenges. Right? We've heard the good things that sustainability, a lot is being happened. We're looking at stakeholders that have typically been marginalized. You're talking about artisans, and in fact, it's important to create that identity. Artisans were the strength of India, and today, if we want to create a niche for ourselves, I think if we can revive that artisan community as well, along with large brands, I think is important. So if you want to talk about risks and challenges and how, perhaps everybody needs to collaborate, or there are any parting thoughts that how, as consumers, we can integrate, or what is that pledge we need to take? I would like to hear your thoughts. So Puneet, maybe I start with you.
Parting thoughts. Let's just walk the talk with the biggest parting, thought. But yeah, what I heard, it's exactly what we are also predicting as a business. We heard words like community-led, streetwear, but community-driven consumers are one of the bigger drivers for the next couple of years. And this is for anybody who has any interest in understanding the consumer before they make the product. We actually have reports where you're talking about community. I spoke about care culture, which is, again, being transparent. And all the brands over here, I'm the only non-brand person who's not in a apparel brand. All of you are associate brands. It's good to hear. It's good to know that brands are doing this at a certain level. The only thing is, there is a risk, huge risk. There are financial obligations. There is a top line. There is a bottom line, which I think is the worst thing which can happen in a business, having a top line and bottom line. But that's the most important thing as well. So balancing it is very important. Having a goal is very important. What Dr. Tyagi showed was very nice. Almost every brand should have this. There should be a certain segment where you come out in the public, we speak about this, we tell them, because a long process. We can't change systems overnight. We were just having a chat. We can't change things we've done 1947. That's when you said, it's like you have businesses which are 70, 80, 100 years old, and they, at that time, whatever they were doing was right. No one consciously wants to harm the environment. We live in the environment. But changing systems is where the biggest challenge is. But yes, the only appreciation which can come, which you should be encouraged about, is that your consumer is happy. They're going to take this, they're going to accept this. So maybe it's worth taking that slight of a risk, is what my parting thoughts would be.
Just listening to everybody, I just have this thing, as soon as we hear the word community, what goes on in one's mind? It's, how do you see that there is no child labor? How do you see that below, age limit is maintained? How do you see that the woman is careful? You'll be surprised that these women are far more alert, aware, in their head, educated about these things. Yeah, you just need to give them this thing of saying that, you have a purpose in life. You are your individual on your own rights. And they fall into place much more. What I have seen, I've worked in the garment industry. I've looked at the commercial factories. The community, working with the community, the way they work, the way they understand is where the future is. If you take work to them, to skill them in their hard skills and their soft skills, teaching them life skills, I think the product which is going to come out is like so fair to a consumer. Looking at sustainability, looking at transparency, we knew all this right from the beginning. It's just these words are coming up now. Big words like this. But you go in and see a woman, you talk to a woman on the ground, the way she talks, the way she says that, earlier I used to make a difference between my son and my daughter. But just that you coming here, I think they are equals. The thing, it's so simple. So I would really like the brands to understand that going to the community, working directly with the community is not difficult. It's not impossible. There is a journey because we also took some 10 years to realize that, all these things tie up, because it's not just that you train them and then you leave them. You need to bring in channel. You need to bring in create. You need to give them a market access. So that's something that I want to leave the audience with and the brands.
I'll just take 1 minute to tell. I think what is common in this room, and I see that commonality, one is that we all are consumer. Earlier, brand used to impose on the consumer. Now it is reverse. Consumer has to demand what is right brand to do, ethical manufacturing, ethical design, ethical sourcing. So I think we have commonality to demand from the brand what consumer want and how we should consume. Second, I think any systematic change, it's very slow and challenging. It is never done so fast. So it's, I think, responsibility or collective responsibility of everyone, including brand, industry, country, to make that small change happen for that large impact. Happy to see that so many people are now driving, passionate people driving it, government is driving it, industry is driving it. And this is the decade for India. And I'm very hopeful that the change which is happening now will make India 2047 definitely most sustainable textile and apparel industry.
I will just say that there will always be brands which will not have a purpose. They will just want to make money by eating up everybody else's profits or by using non-sustainable practices. And there are now brands that are working on sustainable and brands which have a purpose. So for us, the road will always be a little tough and it will be slow. But if we stick to it, I see that this is the only way to go about it in the future.
I think for us, I've already spoken about the consumer, and we encourage people to buy less but buy better. But on a creator side, I think the one final thought that we're imbibing as well and sharing is that how can brands create lesser but better product, and how can they keep circularity at the center of what they're creating? I think that's the one thing that is food for thought for us, and what I'd like to leave this with.
I'll be quick. So my food for thought is that there is a consumer and there is a producer, and the consumer drives the demand, but producer should be conscious how he makes it. If that doesn't happen, then the ecosystem doesn't exist. Thank you.
So thank you so much. I think that was a wonderful discussion. I'm just going to say sustainability is a little inconvenient, but I think Dr. Tyagi also said this, everybody has a role to play. So I don't think we can wait for somebody else. As consumers, the way we consume, what we are asking for, how much we are consuming, how much we're using, it's important. How we are producing, like Shyamji said, is equally important. How do we engage the community? How do we create? So I think everyone has a role to play. We've heard that there are great examples. There is already momentum on the ground. Now, how do we really get this rolling much, much faster? So thank you so much. And with that, I bring it to an end. Thank you.
Because you guys went 2 minutes over, I'm going to take 2 minutes of your time. Well, it's great to have this panel, and thank you very much. That was a great session. I'm sorry we ran out of time, because I know we could have kept talking about sustainability and what we need to do as businesses and as brands and as consumers for quite a while. But we do now have the launch of the India Business of Fashion Report 2023. And it ties in with this session because it's the first ever study on 100 global green initiatives in fashion. And it's a path-breaking global account of game-changing, sustainable fashion innovation. So could I get Nikhil and Prem on the stage, please? Yeah, give the books back. We're going to recycle them for the 2024 report.